Today is June the 29th, 2019. It's Saturday. It's about 1:44 p.m. I'm here on Main Street. This building here used to be the old armory for Charleston, Missouri. But it's the headquarters of the Charleston, Missouri City Public Works and temporarily home for the Charleston, Missouri Police Department until their renovation of their police department is complete sometime this year, they say. The street here is Main Street. Main Street is the dividing of east and west in Charleston, Missouri. And when I first moved down here, I lived on the west side of town, and I moved on the east side of town for I forgot how many years. Let me see, from I think 97, almost 10 years. Then moved back to the east side of town. Moved back to the west side of town. But I'm gonna take y'all on a little tour of the power that was on the west side of this here dividing line here. This dividing line, like I said, is the dividing line of east and west. And we finna go on the west side of town, 90-something% black. But I'm gonna take you down a road. The people that I knew now, you know what I mean? It's other people, but the people that I knew that was powerful and positive in this town. And it's more, but I'm just saying the one I had interaction with. This little vacant lot here, it used to be Miss Fleeta. I believe it was Fleeta Williams, but she did foster care, and she raised a lot of people, a lot of children, males and females. Down the street here, where you see that pinkish house, that was Miss Gordon. Powerful people. This house here, Miss Ferris and her family. Those people that I just mentioned, I'm gonna give you a little history. Right here, the funeral home, Charles Williams, made Miss Ferris, Charles Williams, Miss Fleeta, and Miss Ferris, Fleeta, and Charles Williams and Miss Gordon, may all of them rest in peace. All this down here was my auntie Thelma Alford, my other auntie Bernice's Ivy. She's there now. All this here is Lincoln School, where most of all of them went to. Well, it used to be Lincoln School. This house here used to be Miss Peaches, and may she rest in peace. And I'm gonna keep on going down. That house over there used to be Miss Kathleen Morris. This house here is still in my family. That's my grandmother's, Flora Lee Ivy Scott, and my biological grandfather. The next house there, Miss Snowball, and a couple of houses down was Miss Margaret Jefferson and her mother, a powerful lady, Miss Fleeta Rogers. This house here used to be Miss Birkenridge, the highest ranking black nurse in, I believe, Southeast Missouri. Right here, still carry their name, Mr. John Hurod, there on the corner there. That's Mr. Moore, Mr. Hurod, may he rest in peace. And that was Mr. Moore house that I seen down to the left there. But him and his wife, Tom Moore and his wife, pillars of the community. Right here, across the street from me right now, Mr. and Mrs. Horton. And right here, where I'm living at now, Miss Alice Barnes. Now, when I speak of them here on Vine Street, and I'm not saying it wasn't other people that was pillars in the community. I'm just speaking of people that I interacted with. The people that I interacted with, all of those people when I started down on one end of Vine Street, it was a blessing to meet all of them particular people. When I started off with Miss Fleeta, I believe it was Miss Fleeta Williams. She raised foster children, and she did an excellent job. But when I mentioned her, she was one of the people that was a mentor to me and a positive force in Charleston, Missouri, on Vine Street here. And Vine Street started 0 west from Main Street. When you go down to the very end, past Finney, at the end of Vine Street, I believe it's like 12 something west. But Miss Fleeta, she was a positive things here for Vine Street. And when we went on down a little bit, it was really off of Vine, but it was on Grand Street, Miss Gordon. You know her and her husband. Her husband, Fred Gordon, he was a mayor here at one time. He was a school teacher, and he stood on the Charleston R1 school district. Did the job. Miss Gordon, she retired from Charles William Funeral Home. Miss Ferris, like I said, I used to have Bible study in her house with her daughters. Miss Charlotte and Mary Lane. And a couple of more of her family members. We had Bible study there. Then we went down the street a little bit. We went to across the street, I believe almost, Charles Williams Funeral Home. You know, he used to be the mayor here too. And, you know, he did a great job here. All these people I'm mentioning, they did a great job here. Then when I came on down a little bit more, you know, you seen the Lincoln School where most of them went to, where the only place blacks can go to high school at the time, until 1961. Oh, I forgot to mention down there when I showed my grandmother's house, Miss Snowball's house, Miss Margaret Jefferson's house. I forgot to mention, and I mentioned her, hey now, and I mentioned her a lot of other times, Miss Annie Davis. Miss Annie Davis, and her, may she rest in peace, her daughter Barbara Davis and her other daughter Johnny Davis, they was the key factors in filing a lawsuit against the Charleston Consolidated Schools number 7, which is the Charleston R1 school district today, so blacks didn't have to just be segregated to the Lincoln High School, which I showed y'all. But if you want to look up that case, it's called Davis, etc. versus the Charleston, Missouri Board of Education, or Charleston, Missouri Consolidated School number 7. And you'll be surprised. You look at the lawyers that represented Charleston, Missouri, to keep blacks from coming in there, and they still in Sykeston, Missouri right now. Read the case. It's a federal lawsuit that was won, and they started bringing blacks in there in 1961. But I just wanted to show y'all, you know, these people that I'm mentioning. My grandmother, who I came down to her house, Flora Ivy. She's a Scot. She was a Scot before she passed. But my grandfather died in 1965, and she married a Scot. Hey now. But I mentioned that for a reason. You know, these people that attack me and say what they did when they was 16 and 17, they can show you nothing constructive. They was destructive. They can show you nothing positive that they did then and what they're doing now. The people I mentioned today, if they was alive today, all these people that's attacking me, NAACP, preachers, and these other individuals, these people that I just mentioned, they would have stood up for me. And I know this here for a fact because they molded me. When I was in that jail for 5 months in 2001, doing time for something I shouldn't have never been arrested for or tried or convicted for, which 19 years later, a judge took my name off of this list. But Miss Fleeta Roger made sure those people took care of me in that jail and didn't try to harm me. people in this town that done left that would speak up. You look at some of my YouTube video comments, and people will tell you people left this town because they was going to be hung by some of these people that ran the Charleston, Missouri Police Department. You see what I'm saying? Because they stood up for things like I'm standing up for now. But you know, people say, well, why is so many people attacking him? It don't just seem right. It didn't seem right that Malcolm X had to have an AK-47 in his window looking out, not for the Ku Klux Klan, not for racist white folks, but for black folks didn't like what he was saying out of his mouth. You see, he was taught one thing when he got out of prison, and he stood on it until he did research. When you do research about me, you will see I'm not a rapist. You see that I'm not a child molester. You see that I'm not a sexual predator. And you will see that I've never been convicted of damn one of them. I don't care what the paper would show a picture on a registered list. You see what I'm saying? But it wouldn't show none of those. This is how in the South, when you're not from the South or you from the South and you stand up against white supremacists and sell out blacks. You see what I'm saying? You know, Malcolm X, he was black, but blacks was trying to attack him. Why? Because he was revealing the wrong that some blacks was doing, not all blacks. And that's what I've been doing down here in Charleston, Missouri. You see what I'm saying? But now I'm speaking up for me and my 2 daughters and my 91-year-old World War II veteran dad. All these people that's attacking me, they talked about my dead mother, but if you look at their mother history, you see what I'm saying? You see what their mothers done in this town. You see what I'm saying? You won't run a name check and see my mother's name in no police data. But these people that's attacking me, tell them to tell their mother's history. These people that said that my dad wasn't a World War II veteran, honorably discharged, and didn't go to Lincoln School here in Charleston, Missouri, experienced prejudice in Charleston, Missouri, and in the military. When he was drafted, he was separated. They were separated from the white soldiers. But my daddy didn't come out prejudiced. He had enough sense. Him and my mother moved from down here, which I'm going to do for my 2 daughters. I'm going to move them from down here because they're going on 13 and 14. And all they seen me doing is battling against white supremacists, some corrupted law enforcement officials, some corrupted judges. You see what I'm saying? And a bunch of sellout blacks that call themselves leaders, NAACP and any other group. They got a group they call CCT, Charleston Community Takeover. What is you taking over? You ain't taking over nothing but what these same sellout blacks did before. You see what I'm saying? Misusing and abusing the black community. But I'm going to leave for right now. Peace be still.